What is something you did that you deeply regret doing? Not fighting and advocating more for myself growing up. I struggled with classes, jobs, projects, and hobbies. I had a really hard time focusing on anything. I was called stupid, lazy, and all sorts of other things by my teachers, friends, and coworkers. I knew I wasn't any of those things but just couldn't seem to get things right. Now, a father in my 40s, I started seeing similar issues with my daughter, and when we went to speak to some specialists it turns out she has ADHD and a generalized anxiety disorder. We got her treatment and a prescription for some medications and she's doing so much better at everything. The similarities in her struggles and mine motivated me to get tested, and sure enough I got diagnosed with ADHD, inattentive type. Started counseling and medication, Adderall, and it's like a switch was thrown. I'm a functional human. Finally. Now I'm just dealing with the emotional trauma of growing up like that and all the pent-up frustration and anger over a life that might have been had my parents, or anyone for that matter, made an effort to really find out why I was the way I was. Better late than never, I guess. When I was 14 I got in a big argument with my dad about not having enough new clothes to wear to school. At a certain point he yelled, "If you want all this money to spend, go get a job." I'm pretty sure he meant it entirely rhetorically, but I took it seriously. Now at 14, I had no idea about how to actually get a job, so I walked to a strip of nearby restaurants and knocked on the back door and just asked if I could have a job. Naturally, most of them just laughed at me. But this one Chinese restaurant manager looked at me for a second and said, "Show up on Sunday at 8 a.m., not gonna lie, I was kinda surprised. But I showed up. It was a dim sum brunch/lunch thing and I pushed around a cart bussing tables. End of the day, they handed me something like $75 cash. And on Chinese New Year they gave me a little red envelope with a bonus $100 inside. Needless to say, that is a very nice haul for a 14-year-old in 1990. My parents were the type to let me disappear in the morning and show up periodically or call to tell them where I was, so they didn't really notice me missing for those hours. I went to my dim sum shift every Sunday for a few weeks and eventually racked up enough money to buy this winter coat I wanted. A triple fat goose jacket on a skinny 14-year-old kid with even skinnier legs looks like a goddamn lollipop. Came home from the mall with the jacket and my dad asked where the hell I got that. That's when I told them what I'd been doing every Sunday for the past 5 weeks. I'll never forget the look on my dad's face, turning from a slightly angry surprise to one of approval and pride. So yeah, that's the story of how I got my first job, lol. I don't know if anybody's gonna read this, but here it is. I have a girl best friend, I'm a male, who's very supportive and caring for me. We've known each other since high school and she knows almost everything that's going on in my life. She's helped get out of my darkest moments in HS, I won't specify. At first I had no romantic feelings for her, but I am very comfortable and happy around her. When I left our city to live in a small town in a different province, I started missing her. We kept in touch and talk online almost every day. She was still my closest friend, until I started to fall for her. I was an immature MFer back then in high school, so I thought that maybe she likes me too because she's so kind to me. I started gaslighting her to make myself look better. My idea of looking better as a man back then was having shit tons of women. I lied constantly, acted like I didn't care about her just to see how she would react. She then met a boy and she fell in love with him. I got hurt so much that I didn't attend her debut, 18th birthday party, it's a big deal in my country, and told her that I blew my Achilles tendon and can't walk. I was only partially injured and I can still walk. She understandably was upset about me not going, so my dumbass thought that the perfect time to tell her how I really feel is when she's upset with me while she has a significant other. She said she didn't like me like I did and I pushed her away and stopped talking to her. I still think this is the biggest mistake of my entire life and I'm still in love with her. Fast forward several years, I apologized for everything and we're still friends. If I could turn back time, I would have treated her better. I haven't slept well since missing her 18th birthday. A few years ago my husband and I decided to move with our daughter. He was able to retire at a young age from the federal government, and though we'd had our ups and downs in our almost 20 years together, it seemed like we had worked the kinks out of marriage. We were very happy. We moved to another state to buy land in the country and build our dream house, something we had always planned to do and looked forward to. Almost immediately, our contractors started scamming us and hiding money. A year into a build that was supposed to take at most 8 months, and it seemed like every day there was a new problem to deal with regarding the build. We were living with family members who quickly grew tired of our presence, and who could blame them? We were supposed to be there for 6 months, we were there over 2 years. All of this BS took its toll on our happy marriage, and we moved back to our state to try to salvage whatever we could, but we ended up divorced. I have had to start over after being a stay-home mom for 16 years. It's really hard to live on my coffee shop wage. I miss my family, and I know my life would have been very different if we had never moved in the first place. Not responding to my grandpa's text messages. Every morning he'd send me good morning messages, and I normally wouldn't respond, but for about a week I just didn't for whatever reason. One stupidly early morning, think around 2 a.m., my mom gets a phone call and she and my dad drive down to the hospital. When I heard it was about my grandpa, I half expected him not to make it, so the guilt of not replying to him really set in. My mom stayed there until 1 p.m. the next day, and my dad went to the hospital earlier that day. They only came home to bring us food. At around 7 p.m. they came home and gave us the news. I knew already, but my brother didn't, so he was in tears along with my mom. I was already dealing with my own personal problems, so I didn't have the mental capacity to handle the situation, so I just listened to some music to cheer me up. Fast forward to about 7 a.m. the next day, and I get woken up by my parents, and they give me the news that my grandpa passed, say about a couple hours before. My heart was torn apart, but for some odd reason I didn't shed a tear during this entire process. Same with my dad. My brother and my mom, however, was bawling their eyes out. This was last April, and I still feel the same regret that I felt all those months ago. So guys, if your grandparents, or anyone for that matter, wants to contact you, do not take it for granted ever. You don't know when will be the last time you'll be able to even get a text message from them. My best friend and I talked often, but it was always me who initiated. She called me when some drama was going on with her BF, or if she needed something. One day, she calls me and it's about 9:40 a.m. I was still sleeping, so I ignored the call and went back to sleep. Then I stopped hearing from her. Tried to call back a few times and text, only to get no reply. I checked her Facebook to find out that she had been murdered. Her body was found the day she called me at 10 a.m. 20 minutes after she tried to call me. I don't know what I would have heard if I had answered. Maybe I would have heard her dying, but I will always regret not being there for her. I lived in another state too far away to do any good or save her life. I think about it all the time, how scared she must have been. She tried to call me, her lifelong best friend, and I didn't even answer because I assumed it would be drama I didn't want to deal with. I deeply regret picking on this very socially challenged girl when I was younger. I wasn't particularly vicious or anything, but I should have used my popularity to stand up for her, or at least treat her right. And if you wanted something NSFW, then I regret not hitting the woman who pulled down my pants and boxers during a party. In front of my friends, I just stood there frozen, not understanding what was happening, since I thought a woman would never go through with it. Now I'm not shy or anything, but that was extremely uncomfortable, and everyone just thought it was funny even though I very clearly was not into it. I have the same regret about picking on a boy I grew up with. He was never mean to me specially or anything. He was the punching bag of the class. I never bothered to step in for him because I was also a punching bag in a way who barely made it in with the popular group. He was a small kid with ADHD who was the perfect target for a kid to pick on. Never saw him again after 8th grade. I truly hope he's doing well. I also have this regret. There was a girl in my class in 4th grade who was the class punching bag, particularly because she cried all the time. Sometimes, she would try to talk to me in front of people and I would just awkwardly ignore her because I was afraid I'd get put in her rank on the pecking order. I feel so much shame for it because every day, Her dad would come to pick her up and would yell at her the entire time. She moved not too long after, and as I got older, I connected the dots about her dad yelling and her always crying. I have to hold back tears knowing I likely added to her pain. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe for future videos just like this.